podcast clients, playable on computers, phones, tablets, smart speakers and consoles. So essentially it's a radio show that's on demand. And you can listen on an Amiga. Thought I'd point that out. It's me on my Amiga 4000. Now, our show is released every Friday. We do, how many episodes last year?
155 are on.
155 are on now. The show format is 20% retro gaming news and 80% interview based. And we are multi-platform. We cover everything from the ZX80 to the PlayStation 2, really. Mostly gaming focused, but covering computing too. And most popular in English-speaking markets, UK, USA, Australia, but also a big audience across Europe, Japan and South America too. And they're the handsome chaps who host the show. Now, how's it made? Now, the first step, which Ravi is really the guy behind this, finding the guests for the show. How do you get so many amazing people on our podcast?
Well, first, last year we actually had some help from Jarlath, who's here, and he helped us get John Romero from, ID Software, which was absolutely amazing. But also, nowadays with kind of the internet, you can contact a lot of people very easily, and if you can get something that relates to them, then they'll be more eager to get into it. So Eugene Jarvis, who created Defender, I basically took a video of me playing the Space Invaders game that he just released, and then sent it to him, and he was like, oh wow, yeah, I'll come on, because he saw that I was kind of passionate about it. So if you can get something that really interests people and spark their interest again, then they'll be more willing to come on and chat about it. And also if their friends have been on, that always helps, because you can go, we've had everybody in the company, but not you.
Or if they've got something to promote right now, that often helps as well. But often it can be cold calling, you just sometimes get in touch with people on Twitter. But also you found, we know a guy called Paul Drury who works at Retro Gamer magazine, and he gave us a great tip one day. He said, if you want to contact someone from the 80s computer industry, who better to talk to than other people in the 80s computer industry? So, you kind of friends of friends kind of helps.
It's like the cluster effect. Like once we've got more and more guests, then more people want to come on. And we always try to think. We've had the guests on that we really enjoy, and now we're trying to get ones that the listeners enjoy. And it means that we're learning more stuff because these are brand new subjects. Okay.
Bit louder. Hello. Can you hear us now? That better? Okay, cool. So after we found the guest, the next step is research. Now, there are several ways that we do this, either primary sources from the era. Now that can be old magazines. Archive.org is an invaluable resource, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Old magazines. Amiga magazine rack as well is quite good for that.
Looking at their bio and catalogue, stuff like Moby games, YouTube playthroughs, reading and watching other interviews for inspiration is always good. But for us, the main bit of the show really is this bit here. Because people that we get on our podcast are often people that we grew up playing their games, or they ran companies that we were into as kids. And it's stuff that we really want to find out. And often little big stories that you read about in magazines maybe 30 years ago, and you want to know, what's the real story here? Get it from the horse's mouth?
Kind of being global as well, we've started to explore new areas. So Australia is one that we've not talked about before, and we're starting to get a lot of guests from Australia talk about the Australian gaming scene, because that's actually the third biggest kind of listener base we have, and there was a lot of Amiga in Australia as well. So they had a little kind of group going on there.
And then after that, we generally write 30 or so questions in a Google Doc as guide questions, but stuff will come up when we're talking to people. And we want to get like a story arc, really, start from the beginning of their story. We kind of talk about it like a sandwich, really, don't we? So you've got the two bits of bread and the meat in the middle, which is the main bit of the story that you want to find out about.
You always record too much of the interview and then cut it down. That's the way to go.
Then after that we find news, and this is done by reading retro gaming blogs and news sites, YouTube videos, magazines, keeping an eye on Twitter, Reddit, Facebook. We often get listener submissions, which is quite good as well.
Yeah, people saying, have you seen this? And if there's a big piece of news, you'll probably get about 15 people sending the same link.
And then we generally find 4 to 5 stories that we are interested in, because we have to talk about them. And then balance them out so they're varied enough, so you might have like a Sega story, then a Nintendo one, an Amiga one, so it's a bit balanced. Interests everybody.
And we also try to kind of not tell each other the stories before we do the show, so our reactions are natural rather than pre-rehearsed.
Now this is how we record the show. We're recording this quite early in the morning, so if we look a bit rough, it's not because we were out the night before or anything like that. Good morning, Ravi.
Hello. So this is the studio where we record the Retro Hour, and we're very lucky because in Dan's professional job, he works as a radio host, so this is where he is most of the time.
Yeah, now this is actually a proper radio studio. Not the most modern kit in the world. I mean, this mixer here is, I think this is probably like the early 90s, I think, but I mean, you're like an audio guy, you know, often analog is best, isn't it?
These microphones are really nice as well. Loads of people have been asking what they are, so let me read it from the back. The AT4033A.
Audio Technica.
Audio Technica, yeah. They're really nice quality, and it's really good to kind of use a space like this, because we've got stuff where you can like, plug your headphones in, have call-ins on the desk as well.
So I'll show you, yeah. It's essentially I sit over here at the main desk. I am the anchor. I've been called worse. Ravi sits over there. Then if we have Joe in as well, he sits there. So we have 3 microphones in this room. Through there, there's a live radio show going on right now. We're actually in very early in the morning today. It's 20 past 8 because we have a guest from Australia, mate.
Yeah, quality guest, quality starts.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, this is a mixer that we use. So we have, I mean, essentially we only use a couple of channels on here. These are our microphones here. So that's mine. That's Ravi's over there. We got our levels up on the desk there if we're talking. Good morning, hello. A lot of volume meters on there too. And then we record everything into this machine here that has Adobe Audition on it, which used to be called, I think it was Cool Edit Pro, I think it was back in the day, wasn't it? Definitely my favourite audio editor, and we pretty much use Adobe for everything from recording the in-studio stuff, the guests, and then when I go home, I've got CS6, I think it is, the more recent version of my machine at home, and the whole show is mixed down in Adobe Audition. We have a little like play-out system here as well for doing stuff like that Christmas quiz.
You also have a preset audio levels, don't you? So you have like preset compression.
Yes, I mean, so the mics all go through this program here, which is called the N2 dual voice processor. It's very impressive. I've got my own setting, Maggie's got one too. And the mics are fed into this little box down here, which is a dual voice processing unit. So as you can see, the levels are all moving up there. And it gives you kind of a bit, cleans your voice up a little bit, sorts out the tops and the bass and all that kind of thing too, to give it a bit more of a crisp sound. And then if we have guests on, they're generally recorded on Skype. Now, we do have Skype on here, and that will be how we chat to our guest from Australia. I fade him up on the desk here, then we can hear him in our headphones. I use my own headphones there, DT770s, classic headphones. And we sometimes get guests on the phone as well, don't we?
Yeah, getting them on the phone's quite nice. It's got that old radio kind of feel.
Really like feel like you're on LBC or something. But then when we do that, we've actually got a little program on this machine here that I can open up quickly, which is called Phonebox. And then essentially that we have a couple of faders on the desk that allows us to fade the caller up, and they can hear us, we can hear them, and we have like a few lines coming in, as you can see, they're all in there. So I mean, that's essentially it really. So we record the show in a proper studio. But then after that, I mean, the news and the interview sections are edited afterwards. We try and get the show as close to 1 hour as possible. As we've noticed, because I think an hour is generally the length that we want to aim at, because a lot of people have a 30-minute commute in the morning and then on the way home, or it might be a 1 hour lunch break as well, so that kind of format works quite well. There are some subjects that we have where it might run a bit over like 1 hour.
Or we do a two-parter.
Yeah. Well, we notice our audience just fall off quite quickly after that hour mark. So if we look at our retention in iTunes, which will actually show you how long people listen for, an hour episode will get about 90% retention. After that, an hour 15 will drop down to 70. So trying to stay as close as possible as that 1 hour is important for us. Music's all mixed in afterwards, and then afterwards, this is a conversation we had initially when we started doing the show, thinking about where people listen to podcasts. So the audio's finalized with multi-band dynamics processing. So essentially, that is what you hear on the radio when stuff is fed through a processor to kind of get the loud bits a bit quieter and get the quiet bits a bit louder. Because you've got to think people generally will be listening on earpods, on their phone, on a train, walking down the street, or listening in a car. So essentially you want to make it really easy to listen to, so people are not going to miss any of it. Some of the more audiophile listeners say it makes their ears bleed a bit sometimes, but most people aren't listening on high-end audio systems. And that's a typical session in Adobe Audition. And then releasing the show. So after we've done it, we get it out there, create artwork for the episode using Photoshop, write show notes, link to the news stories, information about the guests, upload it to Audio Boom, which is where we host our show, and SoundCloud, and then that feeds off the RSS feeds to iTunes and the podcast clients. Create a web page on our website. We make a video version for YouTube as well, which is not our main platform, is it? But we did get some demand.
Yeah, we got a demand for a few viewers, but we kind of don't want to video the podcast as well, because it's going to look quite boring us two sitting there drinking tea early in the morning. So
yeah, I mean, there is maybe a few hundred people that would rather listen on YouTube, so we put it on there for them as well, and then promoting the show on social media. Next step, live events. Now we do a lot of these, don't we?
yeah, so we are the kind of official talks of Play Expo, which is a massive events company that do them all over the country. So this year they just did London, which was the first one.
So we did Blackpool, London, Manchester, you went to Glasgow and Margate last year. We can host as many as 10 over a weekend, 10 one-hour panels in 2 days. We're normally like zombies at the end of
Yeah, there's usually like 10 minutes break and you have to scoff a rap or something to just get some energy.
And we do specialist events, like we did a music festival last year called Audio Base Festival with Rob Hubbard and a few of the guys from Rare. National Video Game Arcade in Nottingham get us into host stuff as well. We've been invited to one in Ireland, Poland, quite a few of them now actually. And when we do these events as well, we're often kind of left a bit of a free rein to pick which guests we want to get there, aren't we?
Yeah, we kind of discuss it with the event organizer, see what era they like as well. So they're kind of going into PlayStation stuff now, but we've had a lot of Amiga stuff in the past as well. And yeah, we're going to be getting some, what was it, Carmageddon we're trying to
Yeah, quite a lot coming up. And then obviously we want to get value on the show, so we record them all for broadcast on the podcast later on. And there's a few little shots. That was Play Expo in Blackpool last year, a YouTubers panel. There's an audience at Play Expo Blackpool. There's our stage in Manchester, that one, I think.
Yeah.
We've got sound engineer, as you can see down the bottom there, who looks after all the microphones and mixing and makes sure there's all the levels.
And we always used to mess up recordings as well. We always mess them up, but now we've got a system. Live recording is hard.
And there's Ravi with John Hare on stage, doing Sociable Soccer, his new game. Then after that, I want to promote the show as well. Now, we've been covered in quite a lot of places.
Yeah, so we've kind of gone for local media as well, which has been like Left Lion and Not Stevie, Nottingham Post, but we're also aiming for some national stuff as well. So we managed to get some stuff in the Guardian and Observer as well, which is really good.
BBC, Micro Mart magazine, rest in peace. We were featured by Apple as a featured podcast on iTunes for 8 weeks when we quite early in the show, wasn't it? That really helped. We obviously, when we do Play Expo, we flyer everywhere, get thousands out over the weekend. I think your fiancée was a flyer girl.
Yeah.
That's the bit. And regularly appear on other podcasts and YouTube channels now. That crossover is important, isn't it?
Yeah, really important. So doing kind of crossovers with other podcasts means you address their audience as well, and they can kind of come over to yours, and it's a really good collaborative kind of way of making your podcast grow.
And here's a little clip of our a little TV package about us, just a couple of minutes long.
Oh well, we can't seem to get sound, but you can get that one online.
Yeah, so essentially it's our local TV channel, Lots TV. We sat at a local video games bar. We set loads of consoles up on a table, got some really weird looks of people in there, and then this guy came along who was a journalist off our local TV channel. He didn't know anything about retro gaming, and his first question to us was, how can there be news about retro?
Yeah.
He said, that's an oxymoron, how does that work?
And as you can see, it was ages ago, because I'm quite thin.
Yeah, me too. Or thinner. It's a haircut, rather. Yeah, but we kind of explaining what retro is and what podcasting is to a tea time TV audience. So.
Yeah, and it's a kind of small local cable television, isn't it? Digital.
Then these days, the show regularly reaches the top 10 in the iTunes tech charts. As you can see, we're number 2 there with that episode. Most weeks we make the top 10, don't we, on release?
Which is awesome.
And then how do we pay for the show? Well, listener donations are the main way. Donations help us pay for the running of the show, hardware, software, attending events. And recently we've introduced sponsors into the show as well. Like we've had The Economist sponsored about 2 months worth, didn't they, at the end of last year? A company called Beer 52, they're like a craft beer club. And at Bitmap Books, which was one that we really enjoyed working with. Now does anyone know Bitmap Books? Yeah. They make retro gaming books, really nice artwork books. And we worked with Sam and the team. We did what we call an integrated campaign. So we did an entire month about adventure games to celebrate the release of their book, The Art of Point-and-Click Adventure Games, because we've been big fans of like LucasArts games and...
Yeah, and we're kind of very aware that we don't want, if there's an advertiser, them to kind of drive the theme of the podcast, but this is a collaboration and we managed to get people on the podcast that we wouldn't have without contacting Bitmap Books, so it kind of helps both groups and doesn't mean we're changing the podcast that much as well.
Yeah, we created 4 shows essentially from guests that featured in the book. We ran weekly competition giveaways, did live streams as well, playing games from the book. And at first, like you said, we were a bit nervous in how will people receive like a month's worth of shows all about one theme, but actually it was one of our most popular months that we've ever done, wasn't it? So it went down really well, and we're going to be working with them again in the future. So the future of the show, global domination, essentially more audience in more locations we want to aim at, obviously. Maybe video elements at some point. If anyone's ever seen CU podcast, with Pat the NES Punk, the way they
Of
do it on
course,
YouTube.
Amiga's podcast.
And Amiga's
They do
podcast,
a wonderful video one.
Yeah. Do you find video helps your show? Do you get
Absolutely.
Yeah. Might be something we look at in the future, so we do get people asking for it. Attending more events, more press coverage. And then how can you start podcasting? Now, it doesn't have to be expensive. You can record using free software like Audacity, which is an open source audio editor. USB microphones can be had for under £100, it sounds pretty good. Skype, which is a way that most podcasts are actually recorded if you're not in the same room. And then when you get more serious, this great bit of hardware came out recently called a Rodecaster Pro. And we're going to get onto these for external OBs and that kind of thing. So it's got 3 microphone inputs on there. It's got a built-in microphone processor to even out all your levels. It's got Bluetooth, so you can actually take phone calls on it, or you can have a Skype interview coming into it, listen to it in your headphones.
And they record it separately as well.
Yeah.
Each audio level is recorded separately, so afterwards you can edit them. Kind of get you really nice level.
And they go for about £500. So when you get a bit more serious about it. If you get really serious, you can hire a studio after that, of course. But so it doesn't have to be expensive. Anyone can do it. Is really the message there.
Can you tell we're audio nerds?
So that's really it, guys. So we just thought we'd tell you a few bits about our podcast and how we make it. Hope you found it interesting. We are going to be around all weekend if you've got any questions. And right now to the bar. Woo!